ABC 1, 2, 3 is something that is used pretty broadly. What I like about this is that we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what to do next, that sometimes it sucks up all of our time. So this benefit of using a prioritization tactic like this is that you just need to plan ahead and write what's important, give it a number and give it a letter, and then you don't have to think about it again. You just do it. So here's an example of our resource that we're providing for you. So for an example, your student has to do health, this specific page and these questions. There's no due date next to it because it's a normal homework assignment that's due the next day. Social studies, okay, so here's the date. Actually, I meant to write that or to mention that, the 6th. And so this one has to be read and completed by the 10th, and so on and so on. So if there's no date next to it, it just means it's due the next day. So those things that are due the next day get an important ranking of A. The things that are due a day after, not the next day, but after, would be B. And anything that's possibly a long-term type of project, paper, essay, prep for a test, would likely have a C, but not in all cases. Now, if you have two A's, what do? You give it a numerical rank. So A1 would obviously be the most important thing to do, A2, yada, yada. Okay, so this takes a long time to explain, and we don't really have a lot of time to explain this, but this worksheet is very self-explanatory. One thing I want to say is this: you should be writing this in a planner, but if you don't, this worksheet is going to be helpful. Now, one
Can I
little,
just say about this, Beth? I think that we ask our students to take care of so much. Kids that are, especially high school students, they are really balancing so many different priorities. And sometimes there's just this feeling of like lack of control and
oh,
I
sure.
can't figure out where to start, so I'm not going to start. And I do think that this gives kids a really clear way to lay out their priorities so that they can get started. And it kind of gives them a sense of like empowerment and control over a situation that feels out of control.
Exactly. And that's so key. I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to say too that maybe if something's super pressing for the next day is should maybe have an A1 to it. Maybe you don't have the kind of energy or bandwidth at the moment. Maybe you don't need to do that most difficult thing first. So you kind of have to determine sometimes the difficulty and your motivation at the time. But this is what it looks like real life in a planner. Do you see the
If every student used a planner like we want
if
them
it,
to.
yeah, really, we just, yeah, our prayer for the world. You can see on this one, the first one has a B. The second one, it's a little hard to see, but underneath that arrow, it says C1 because that's a part of a bigger chunk of studying for a test. The third item has an A1. The next two at the bottom have an A2 and C2. So you can see how this works in real life. And this person was starting to never use a planner, started using one, and then started prioritizing in this method, which was very helpful.